You are not replaceable because you lack talent. You are replaceable because the market can compare you too easily. That is the insult most competent men never confront. You learned a skill. You took the course. You collected the tools. You watched the tutorials. But when the market looks at you, it does not see power. It sees another editor, another coder, another designer, another salesman, another man asking to be chosen. And Machiavelli understood this before the modern market existed. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. That is the first law of replaceability. Your real ability does not matter until the market can see it, test it, and attach value to it. And this is where the trap begins. Most men respond by learning more. More courses, more tools, more frameworks, more half-finished skills. They mistake motion for leverage. They mistake preparation for proof. They mistake knowing about something for becoming useful enough that the market has to notice. But more skill does not automatically create more power. A scattered man becomes average in 5 directions. A strategic man becomes dangerous in one direction, then stacks around it. So the question is not, what should I learn? That question is too weak. The real question is this: what combination of skills makes the market unable to treat you like everyone else? Because one common skill gives you entry, a stack gives you leverage. And the man who does not understand this will spend years becoming slightly better at something the market already has too much of. He will become competent, but not scarce, reliable, but not powerful, useful, but not expensive, busy, but still controlled. That is where many unsupported men lose their future. They think learning more will save them. They think if they just collect enough knowledge, eventually someone will recognize their potential, notice their discipline, understand their ambition, and open a door. But the market does not reward invisible potential. The market rewards visible proof. The market does not care how hard your path was. It does not care how misunderstood you felt. It does not care how many nights you studied alone, how many people doubted you, or how many times you had to rebuild your confidence without applause. The market asks a coder question. What can you do? Who can see it? How clearly can they understand it? And why should they choose you instead of the next man? That question feels unfair when you are unsupported. But fairness is not the mechanism. Position is. Machiavelli did not study power by asking what should happen. He studied what actually happens when men compete for advantage, perception, status, trust, and control. And in the modern market, power still depends on position. Your position changes when one skill creates value. A second skill amplifies that value, and a third skill makes the result visible to people who can reward it. That is why isolated competence is weak. A man can be talented and still be overlooked. A man can work hard and still be underpaid. A man can be more capable than his competition and still lose because his value is harder to understand, harder to verify, or harder to trust. This is the brutal difference between being good and being chosen. And if you want to stop being replaceable, you must stop building yourself like a collection of random interests. You must build yourself like a strategic position. Steve Jobs understood this by accident before he understood it by strategy. He dropped out of Reed College, lost the conventional path, and took a calligraphy class that looked useless at the time. To an ordinary observer, it had no obvious career value. It was not practical in the shallow sense. It did not look like a direct path to money, status, or security. But years later, when Apple built the first Macintosh, that aesthetic judgment became part of the machine's identity. Fonts, spacing, visual elegance. The feeling that a computer could be more than a gray technical box. His pressure was uncertainty. His action was following an uncommon signal. His proof was a product that did not merely work, but felt different. The lesson is cold. Technology alone made a computer functional. Technology plus design made it memorable. That is skill stacking. Not learning everything. Not becoming scattered. Not collecting knowledge to decorate your self-image. It is the fusion of abilities that creates a difference the market can recognize. Now look at Mr. Beast. He was not protected by pedigree. He did not win YouTube by being another creator with a camera. The platform already had countless creators with cameras. If that were enough, everyone uploading would become powerful. But he stacked skills that most creators treated separately. Idea selection, retention psychology, thumbnail clarity, storytelling, data analysis, distribution. At VidCon, he said, smaller creators should make 100 videos and improve one thing each time. That is not romantic advice. That is market contact. He studies drop-off points. He changes thumbnails to make the promise clearer. He watches where attention weakens. He improves the machine instead of worshipping the fantasy of talent. The pressure was invisibility. The action was ruthless iteration. The proof became videos that could pull tens of millions of views in a day. The lesson is simple. A creator who understands psychology, packaging, pacing, storytelling, data, and distribution becomes a system. And systems are harder to replace than workers. This matters because many men are still trying to become valuable in the most fragile way possible. They are trying to be good at one thing in a world where the one thing is common, cheap, automated, outsourced, or copied. A basic editor competes with every other editor. A basic coder competes with every other coder. A basic writer competes with every other writer. A basic salesman competes with every other salesman. A basic designer competes with every other designer. But an editor who understands storytelling, retention, client acquisition, and audience psychology is no longer merely an editor. He is a growth asset. A coder who understands product judgment, user pain, and communication is no longer merely a coder. He is a builder. A writer who understands persuasion, buyer psychology, offer structure, and distribution is no longer merely a writer. He is a revenue weapon. This is the hidden law. Skills do not only have value by themselves, they gain value by what they are connected to. And before I go deeper, do one thing if this is already exposing your situation. Subscribe to this channel now, not as entertainment, but as a commitment to stop collecting ideas and start building proof. This channel is for men who are done waiting for permission and ready to become useful enough that reality has to respond. Now understand the real enemy. The enemy is not that you lack intelligence. The enemy is not that your family did not understand your ambition. The enemy is not that your friends doubted you. The enemy is not even that the market is crowded. The enemy is that your value is too easy to compare. When the market can compare you easily, it controls the price. When it sees 10 people who look similar, sound similar, offer similar work, show similar proof, and make similar claims, it has no reason to treat you differently. You may feel different internally. You may believe your intentions are stronger. You may know you would work harder if given the chance. But internal difference does not create external leverage. The market does not experience your private identity. It experiences your signals. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. In the market, this means people judge what they can see before they understand what you can do. If your competence is hidden, scattered, or poorly framed, it is economically weak. You may be capable. You may be disciplined. You may even be better than the man getting paid more than you. But if his value is clearer, his proof is stronger, and his offer is easier to understand, he controls the room before you get to explain yourself. That is not fair. But fairness is not the mechanism. Position is. This is the point many men resist because it injures their pride. They want the world to reward the truth of who they are. They want people to look past weak signals and recognize hidden depth. They want effort to speak for itself. They want quality to be discovered. They want their private struggle to count as public evidence. But the market does not owe you deep interpretation. If you force people to work too hard to understand your value, they will choose someone easier to understand. If you force buyers to guess what result you create, they will choose someone who shows the result clearly. If you force employers to imagine your potential, they will choose someone whose proof makes imagination unnecessary. This is why the unsupported man cannot afford vague competence. He does not have inherited trust. He does not have family reputation opening doors. He does not have a powerful network translating his potential for him. He does not have endless financial room to wander through random experiments. So he needs clarity. He needs proof. He needs leverage. He needs a stack. There are 4 levels most men confuse. First, competence. You can perform the task. Second, scarcity. Fewer people can perform the task at your level or in your combination. Third, visibility. The right people can see evidence of your ability. Fourth, commercial usefulness. Your skill solves a problem painful enough for someone to pay. Most men stop at competence and wonder why they have no leverage. But competence alone only says, I can do the work. Scarcity says, not many can do it like this. Visibility says, here is the proof. Commercial usefulness says, this creates a result worth money. Replaceability decreases when these 4 levels combine. If you are competent but not scarce, you are useful but common. If you are scarce but not visible, you are valuable but hidden. If you are visible but not commercially useful, you are interesting but not necessary. If you are commercially useful but have no proof, you are making claims instead of creating trust. Power begins when all 4 start working together. This is why learn more skills is often bad advice. It sounds intelligent, but it can make a man weaker if he does it randomly. A scattered man becomes average in 5 directions. A strategic man becomes dangerous in one direction, then stacks around it. This is not about becoming a shallow generalist. It is about becoming a specialist with surrounding weapons. A single skill makes you employable. A coherent stack makes you harder to compare. And the research backs the mechanism. Economist David Deming found that employment and wage growth were especially strong in jobs requiring both math skills and social skills. In other words, the market rewards combinations. Analytical ability becomes more valuable when paired with coordination, communication, and human judgment. That matters because the future will not simply reward the man who knows the most. It will reward the man whose knowledge can produce results, communicate value, coordinate with humans, survive market pressure, and become visible proof. The man with only technical ability may be useful. The man with technical ability plus communication becomes trusted. The man with technical ability plus communication plus distribution becomes visible. The man with technical ability plus communication plus distribution plus proof becomes difficult to ignore. This is where the skill stack begins. Your first layer must be the value creation skill. This is the skill that solves the actual problem. Not the skill that sounds impressive. Not the skill that makes you feel intelligent. Not the skill that allows you to hide in private learning forever. The value creation skill is the skill that enters reality and changes something. Writing that sells. Sales that converts attention into revenue. Video editing that increases retention. Coding that builds useful products. Design that improves perception. accounting that protects money, operations that reduces chaos, research that sharpens decisions, a technical trade that fixes urgent problems, client acquisition that brings oxygen into a business. This first skill must pass 5 tests. Does it solve a painful problem? Can the result be measured? Does the market already spend money on it? Can it be tested through real work? Can improvement be demonstrated? If the answer is no, you may be learning for ego, not leverage. And ego loves vague learning. The market does not. The market respects evidence. This is where many men expose themselves. They say they want power, but they choose skills that protect their identity instead of confronting the market. They study endlessly because study feels safe. They research because research delays judgment. They buy tools because tools create the feeling of progress. They consume content because content gives them emotional movement without forcing public proof. But the market is not changed by your intention. The market is changed by solved problems. If your skill does not solve a painful problem, you are building decoration. If your skill cannot be measured, you are building opinion. If your skill cannot be tested through real work, you are building fantasy. And the unsupported man cannot afford fantasy. He needs a skill that can create evidence. He needs a narrow problem he can attack. He needs a result that can be seen, compared, improved, and shown. If you want to become a video editor, do not define your skill as editing. That is too broad. Define the painful problem. A creator has low retention in the first 30 seconds. A business has videos. People abandon before the offer. A coach has valuable ideas but weak pacing. A brand has content that looks polished but does not hold attention. Now your skill has teeth. You are not just editing. You are improving retention. You are protecting attention. You are increasing the chance that the message survives long enough to create money. That is a value creation skill. If you want to become a copywriter, do not define your skill as writing. Writing is everywhere. Define the painful problem. A landing page does not convert. An offer is unclear. A buyer does not understand the value. A business has attention but weak persuasion. Now your skill has economic meaning. You are not just writing words. You are clarifying desire, reducing doubt, and converting attention into action. If you want to code, do not define your skill as coding. Coding by itself is execution. Define the painful workflow. Someone is wasting hours repeating a task. A team is losing data. A customer is confused. A business is relying on messy manual systems that create errors. Now your skill becomes useful. You are not just building an app. You are removing friction. You are saving time. You are reducing chaos. You are making a process easier to trust. That is how a man moves from learning to leverage. The first layer is not chosen by what impresses you. It is chosen by what reality rewards. And once you understand that, the next question becomes more dangerous. Because even a strong value skill can still leave you replaceable if the market sees you as a basic operator. That is where the second layer begins. The second layer is the amplifier skill. This is where the common worker begins to separate from the operator. The first skill creates value. The amplifier increases the economic force of that value. An editor with storytelling is not just cutting footage. He is controlling attention. A coder with product judgment is not just writing functions. He is deciding what should be built, what should be removed, and what users actually need. A salesman with customer psychology is not just pitching. He is reading resistance, desire, fear, timing, and doubt. A designer with positioning is not just making something attractive. He is shaping perception before the buyer even understands why he feels trust. An operator with communication is not just completing tasks. He is reducing uncertainty for the people above him, around him, and dependent on him. This is the difference between labor and judgment. Labor waits for instruction. Judgment sees the hidden problem. Labor completes the task. Judgment understands why the task matters. Labor can be replaced by someone cheaper. Judgment becomes expensive because it reduces risk. That is why the amplifier matters. A skill without an amplifier is often treated as labor. A skill with an amplifier becomes judgment. And judgment is harder to replace because judgment carries context. The basic editor asks, "Where should I cut?" The strategic editor asks, "Where is the viewer losing interest? What promise did the title create? What tension is missing? And how do we keep attention alive until the payoff?" The basic coder asks, "What feature should I build?" The strategic coder asks, "What user pain is this feature supposed to solve? What behavior should change? And what is the simplest version that proves the idea?" The basic writer asks, "What words sound good?" The strategic writer asks, "What belief must change before the buyer acts?" That is the gap. Most men try to become better at the task. Strategic men become better at the decision behind the task. And the decision behind the task is where value multiplies. This is why Machiavelli remains useful. He understood that power is not only possession, power is perception, timing, and position. A man with a sword is dangerous in one way. A man who understands when the sword should be shown, when it should be hidden, and when the enemy should fear it before it is used, is dangerous in another way. In the market, your skill is the sword. The amplifier is judgment. And judgment tells the market that you are not just a pair of hands. You are a mind that reduces uncertainty. This matters because uncertainty is expensive. A business owner does not only pay for work. He pays to reduce anxiety. He pays to trust that the job will be handled. He pays to avoid repeating himself. He pays to avoid hiring again. He pays to avoid mistakes that cost money, time, reputation, and attention. If your skill forces people to manage you constantly, you are cheaper. If your skill reduces the need to manage you, you become more valuable. This is why communication is an amplifier. This is why psychology is an amplifier. This is why storytelling is an amplifier. This is why data analysis is an amplifier. This is why negotiation is an amplifier. This is why strategic thinking is an amplifier. They do not replace the first skill. They make the first skill harder to copy. But here is the trap. Men hear this and immediately want to collect every amplifier. They want psychology, storytelling, negotiation, strategy, data, leadership, persuasion, branding, and public speaking. Then they return to the same disease. Random accumulation. Do not do that. Choose the amplifier that makes your primary skill more commercially dangerous. If you edit videos, storytelling and retention psychology may matter more than negotiation at first. If you sell, customer psychology and objection handling may matter more than public speaking at first. If you code, product thinking and technical communication may matter more than branding at first. If you run operations, communication and project management may matter more than content creation at first. The amplifier must serve the value skill. It is not decoration. It is not for identity. It is not something you add because it sounds powerful. It must make the first skill create a better result, a clearer result, or a result the market values more. A basic video editor can make a video clean. A stronger editor can make a video hold attention. A rare editor can understand the viewer's psychology, the creator's promise, the business goal, the retention curve, the title expectation, and the reason the audience would stay or leave. That man is not selling edits. he is selling retained attention. A basic writer can produce paragraphs. A stronger writer can produce persuasion. A rare writer can understand audience pain, market awareness, offer structure, credibility, desire, objections, and the exact belief that must be killed before action happens. That man is not selling words. He is selling movement. A basic coder can write code. A stronger coder can build a functional tool. A rare coder can understand user behavior, product simplicity, technical trade-offs, business value, and communication with non-technical people. That man is not selling code. He is selling solved friction. This is how your price changes. Not because you demand more, because your position becomes harder to replace. But the second layer still is not enough. You can create value. You can amplify value. You can have sharper judgment than most men in your field, and still remain invisible. This is where many unsupported men suffer the most. They want to be discovered. They want quality to speak for itself. They want the work to become so good that someone eventually notices. They tell themselves they are not like the loud people. They are not fake. They are not attention seekers. They do real work. They do not want to perform. But sometimes that is not humility. Sometimes it is fear wearing the mask of purity. The third layer is distribution. Distribution is how your value becomes discoverable. And this is the layer many men avoid because it forces them into judgment. Not private judgment, public judgment, real people, real reactions, real silence, real objections, real indifference. A man can hide inside learning. He cannot hide inside distribution. When you distribute, the world answers. Sometimes it answers with attention. Sometimes it answers with rejection. Sometimes it answers with nothing, which may be the most painful answer of all. But that answer is intelligence. Hidden competence is economically weaker than demonstrated competence. Machiavelli warned that the common people are impressed by appearances. In the market, appearance does not mean fake image. It means visible proof. Signals. Case studies. Before and after examples. Public work. Testimonials. Clear offers. Documented results. This is not vanity, this is evidence. If you are valuable but nobody can see it, you are asking the world to believe in an invisible asset. And a man without proof should never build his future on trust. Trust is expensive. Proof makes trust cheaper. Distribution is not screaming online. It is not begging for attention. It is not humiliating yourself for clicks. It is not pretending to be successful before you are. Distribution is placing evidence in front of people who can use it, understand it, and reward it. Sales outreach is distribution. Content creation is distribution. Public speaking is distribution. Audience building is distribution. Useful networking is distribution. Portfolio communication is distribution. Copywriting is distribution. YouTube is distribution. Email is distribution. Direct conversations with buyers are distribution. You do not need all of them. You need one channel that puts your proof in front of the right people. Because value creation without distribution is a locked weapon, sharp but unused. The unsupported man must understand this clearly. Nobody is coming to translate your value for you. Nobody is coming to explain your worth to the market. Nobody is coming to carry your proof into rooms you refuse to enter. Nobody is coming to rescue you from the consequences of being invisible. If you want leverage, your value must travel. A portfolio lets your work travel. A case study lets your thinking travel. A video lets your judgment travel. A testimonial lets your trust travel. A clear offer lets your value travel. A before and after example lets the result travel. That is why distribution is not separate from skill. Distribution is part of becoming difficult to replace. Now understand the architecture. One skill creates value. One skill amplifies the value. One skill distributes the proof. That is the stack. Without value creation, you are loud but useless. Without amplification, you are skilled but basic. Without distribution, you are valuable but invisible. And invisible value is treated like non-existent value. Now look at how this works in practice. The media stack is video editing plus storytelling plus client outreach. Editing creates the asset. Storytelling improves retention. Outreach creates opportunity. Alone, editing is a service. Stacked, it becomes growth. A man who only edits waits for footage. A man who understands story can reshape the viewer's experience. A man who understands outreach can bring that ability to creators, coaches, founders, agencies, and businesses that already have attention but cannot hold it. That is leverage. He is no longer saying, "I edit videos." He is saying, "I help your videos hold attention longer, communicate clearer, and convert more of the attention you already fought to earn." That is a different position. The business stack is sales plus customer psychology plus content distribution. Sales creates revenue. Psychology understands resistance. Content creates trust before the call. Alone, sales is persuasion. Stacked, it becomes demand generation. A man who only sells is dependent on conversations already placed in front of him. A man who understands psychology can hear what buyers are not saying. A man who understands content can create demand before the sales conversation begins. Now he is not just closing. He is shaping the conditions that make closing easier. The technology stack is coding, plus product thinking, plus technical communication. Coding creates the tool. Product thinking prevents useless building. Communication helps teams, clients, and users understand the value. Alone, coding is execution. Stacked, it becomes leadership. A man who only codes may build what he is told. A man with product judgment can question whether it should be built. A man with communication can explain trade-offs, clarify decisions, and make technical work legible to people who control budgets. That is not just implementation, that is trust. The local service stack is technical craft, plus reliability, plus reputation systems. The craft solves the problem. Reliability makes you trusted. Reputation systems turn good work into referrals, reviews, repeat buyers, and local dominance. Alone, craft is labor. Stacked, it becomes territory. A man who only fixes problems gets paid once. A man who fixes problems reliably, documents the work, collects proof, asks for reviews, builds referral channels, and communicates clearly becomes the safer choice in his area. And safety is valuable. People pay to reduce risk. They pay to avoid uncertainty. They pay to know the job will be done without chaos. That is why a local serviceman can become powerful without fame. He does not need millions of followers. He needs a market that knows his name, trusts his proof, and associates him with solved problems. Each stack follows the same law. The value skill creates the result. The amplifier improves the result. The distribution skill makes the result visible. This is where you must stop lying to yourself. You do not need 10 skills. You need a stack the market can understand. You do not need to become impressive in your imagination. You need to become useful in reality. You do not need to explain your potential to people who are not buying, hiring, partnering, or investing. You need proof that changes the cost of ignoring you. Now the question becomes practical. How do you choose the right stack? Use 5 filters. First, does it solve an expensive or urgent problem? Do not chase skills because they sound impressive. Chase pain. Money moves toward pain, urgency, risk, desire, and measurable improvement. A skill connected to a painful problem has gravity. A skill disconnected from pain becomes self-expression. Self-expression may matter to you, but the market does not automatically pay for it. If someone is losing money, wasting time, losing attention, losing customers, losing trust, losing reputation, or losing operational control, the problem has economic weight. Start there. Second, can the result be demonstrated? If you cannot show the result, the market must trust your words. And a man without proof should never build his future on trust. Can you show before and after? Can you show numbers? Can you show a sample? Can you show a case study? Can you show a process? Can you show a visible transformation? Can someone look at your work and understand the difference? If not, you may need to choose a narrower problem. Third, can the skill travel across employers or markets? A strong skill stack is portable. It gives you bargaining power because you are not trapped inside one boss, one platform, one company, or one gatekeeper. If your ability only matters inside one environment, your leverage is fragile. If your ability can travel across industries, clients, businesses, locations, or platforms, you have more optionality. Optionality is power. The man with no alternatives negotiates from fear. The man with alternatives negotiates from position. Fourth, can the combination become scarce? The goal is not to be the best at everything. The goal is to combine useful abilities in a way fewer people can match. There are many editors. There are fewer editors who understand retention and client acquisition. There are many coders. There are fewer coders who understand product thinking and technical communication. There are many salesmen. There are fewer salesmen who understand psychology and content distribution. There are many tradesmen. There are fewer tradesmen who understand reliability, reputation, documentation, and repeat business. Scarcity does not always come from being the absolute best at one thing. Often it comes from becoming unusually strong at the intersection. Fifth, can it create income, access, ownership, or leverage? If a skill does not increase one of these, be careful. It may entertain your identity while doing nothing for your position. Income gives you oxygen. Access puts you near opportunities. Ownership lets your work compound. Leverage makes your effort produce more than one unit of reward. A stack that produces none of these is not a strategy. It is a hobby with ambition language around it. This is where the 30-day market test begins. Not another private learning cycle. Not another month of pretending preparation is progress. Not another folder full of notes you never turn into proof. Choose one narrow problem. Create one sample solution. Show it to real potential users. Gather objections. Improve the work. Secure one real-world result. Document the process as proof. That is the test. If you want to become a video editor, do not disappear for 6 months watching tutorials. Take 1 week video, rebuild the first 30 seconds, improve the pacing, explain the changes, and send it to creators or businesses who need retention. Show the original problem. Show your edit. Explain what changed. Point to the moment where attention would likely drop. Explain why your version creates more tension, clarity, or momentum. Now you are not asking someone to believe you are an editor. You are showing judgment. If you want to become a copywriter, do not just read persuasion books. Rewrite one landing page, explain the conversion logic, and show it to the owner. Do not say, "I can write copy." Say, "Your page is losing buyers because the promise appears too late, the proof is weak, and the call to action asks for trust before reducing doubt." Here is a cleaner version. Now you are not selling words. You are diagnosing money leakage. If you want to code, do not build a random app no one asked for. Find one painful workflow, build a simple tool, and let users attack it with reality. Do not ask, is this impressive? Ask, did this remove friction? Did it save time? Did it reduce errors? Did it make the process easier? Did someone use it without being forced? That is market contact. If you want a local service business, do not hide behind planning. Fix one real problem, collect one review, build one before and after proof asset, and make the next buyer feel less risk. Do not wait until your brand is perfect. Do not wait until your website is perfect. Do not wait until your confidence is perfect. Make the result visible. The market is not your enemy. The market is your examiner. It tells you what is unclear, what is weak, what is valuable, what is ignored, and what someone might pay for. Most men avoid market contact because it threatens their fantasy identity. As long as they are learning privately, they can still believe they are secretly powerful. They can still imagine the future version of themselves. They can still feel superior to people who are already producing proof. They can still say, "I am not ready yet," while protecting the idea that they would dominate if they truly tried. But proof destroys fantasy. That is why proof is sacred. Proof tells you whether your ambition has entered reality. And once you have proof, your posture changes. You stop asking people to believe in you. You stop over-explaining. You stop needing family, friends, or strangers to understand the invisible version of you. You become legible to the only judge that matters, reality. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who relies entirely on fortune is ruined when fortune changes. The modern translation is brutal. The man who relies on being chosen will be ruined when no one chooses him. So stop waiting to be selected. Build a stack that forces selection to become rational. One primary value skill. One amplifier skill. One distribution skill. One market test. One proof project. That is enough to begin. Not enough to dominate forever. Enough to stop being interchangeable. And that is the first step out of weakness. Because the unsupported man does not need random knowledge. He needs a position. He needs a way to make the market see him clearly. He needs to move from potential to evidence. He needs to move from explanation to demonstration. He needs to move from waiting to be noticed to building proof that makes ignoring him expensive. This is the identity shift. You are not a man collecting skills. You are a man building bargaining power. You are not learning to feel intelligent. You are learning to become useful in a way the market struggles to replace. You are not trying to become everything. You are trying to become difficult to compare. And that requires discipline of choice. The weak man wants endless options because options protect him from commitment. The strategic man chooses a direction and lets reality test him. He does not ask, "What skill would make me look impressive?" He asks, "What problem can I solve so clearly that someone would be irrational to ignore the proof?" He does not ask, "How do I get people to believe in me?" He asks, "What evidence would make belief unnecessary?" He does not ask, "How do I become confident before I act?" He asks, "What action would create the proof that confidence can stand on?" That is how the game changes. Not through motivation. Not through revenge fantasies. Not through waiting for the right emotional state. Through structure. Through contact. Through proof. Through repeated exposure to reality. And if you are done learning randomly and ready to build the exact stack your current position requires, join Succeed with Zero support on Patreon. The leverage map identifies your skill path, your proof project, and your execution plan. It is built for the man who has no time to wander, no support to waste, and no patience left for vague self-improvement. Stop collecting random skills. Build the stack your situation actually requires, because building the stack is only the first move. The harder question is whether your proof is strong enough for strangers to trust before they know your name. That is where most men fail next. They build something real, but they frame it weakly. They do useful work, but they present it like a favor. They have proof, but the proof is scattered, unclear, hidden, or buried under bad communication. And weak proof can still leave a strong man invisible. So understand the final law. The world does not reward how much you know. It rewards what your knowledge can do, who can see it, how clearly they understand it, and how expensive it becomes to ignore you. Stop collecting skills like trophies. Build the stack. Test it against reality. Document the proof. Make the value visible. No support, no permission. Build anyway.